All right, and welcome to the TSG Multimedia video podcast for August 1st, 2014. This is John sitting here with
Dan,
as usual. And this looks like we're doing something different. Like, it's everyone's favorite topic, lube.
Lube, yes. Yeah, I thought I'd talk about lubricants for model trains.
Oh, okay.
And these are the main ones that I use, actually. This is a plastic-compatible oil. I believe it's Label number 108 oil, but I'm not sure. That you can get different brands, but the important thing is that it's plastic-compatible.
Right.
That's very important because if the oil isn't plastic-compatible, it can actually attack and damage the plastic parts in an engine.
Yeah, and gears are not something you want to have degrade.
Right. In fact, my grandfather had a little Rivarossi N-scale Mikado, 282, and he used to like to lube the heck out of those things, you know, and I think he used probably some oil from the hardware store, you know, and actually one of the, because those engines have the driver's centers are plastic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the axle's metal, the gear is metal, and the tire of the wheel is metal, but the actual driver's center is plastic. And what happened is one of those actually just crumbled.
Ew.
And dissolved, and it was like useless.
Oh well.
So
that's an expensive thing to have, go wrong. Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, this is just regular old, very fine oil, plastic compatible. This is Conductilube. This is by Atlas, but I think there's other brands of it also. This is basically the same kind of light oil that's plastic compatible, but it's also it's also conductive.
Oh, right.
So it conducts electricity. So in certain situations, this is desirable. This is actually something new that I got from Micro Markets called Neolube, which is another conductive lubricant, and it actually goes on wet, but then it becomes dry, and I think it has graphite in it.
Oh.
So it does two things. It blackens parts.
Yeah.
And it also improves the electrical contact.
Huh. And I'm looking at the fine print down here. It says for nuclear applications. What? Is it radioactive or something?
I don't know. Maybe they sell this for industrial use too. I don't know. But they do sell it for hobby use.
That is very strange. I've never seen a label like that.
Yeah, we're not making this up. This is not a joke. It really says that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I can bring it up here and show close up. I kind of feel like I need to now because that sounds like something I'm making up.
I know, it sounds like a joke, but it isn't.
See, I felt like I really had to show this. It actually says that for nuclear applications. All right, well,
I'm not using it on any reactors. I'm just using it on trains.
So it actually does say that. I just wanted to make sure people knew I wasn't making it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it says excellent shielding properties for certain types of electric interference, ideal source for graphite films in nuclear applications.
Maybe nuclear means something different in
Maybe.
a different context that I'm not thinking of.
Not an additive for gasoline motors. Okay.
Does it say? Is there a little disclaimer about not smoking it or something like the green putty?
It says flammable, so I don't know if you'd want to try that.
Well, tobacco's flammable.
Yeah, that's true.
People smoke that.
That's true.
You don't even want to smoke something that's not flammable.
Well, yeah, I suppose that would be a little difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't really light. But
There'd be no smoke.
we're getting way off topic here.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying because at one time, I guess I'll just share this story because it's funny to me. One time we were filming something. I think it was the weathering and detailing diesel locomotives video. And I was waiting for Dan to do something. I think you were like putting together a truck or something. And I looked at the green putty container, and it said something on their disclaimers about do not smoke or something like that. I'm like, who would smoke this stuff? It was just funny.
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah, that wouldn't even occur to me to do stuff like that, so I don't understand. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, how would you smoke it?
I don't know.
Or maybe, and then I thought about it later, and I thought maybe what they meant was don't smoke while you're using it. Like, because it might be flammable. Or
Maybe. Well, it probably is. Yeah. Probably
or maybe the fumes from it would ignite something. I just thought that was funny. Do not smoke.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, moving on. This is Katie Greasem, which is just a powdered graphite lubricant.
Yeah, I remember that from putting it into the journal of the... That was on the weathering and detailing rolling stock videos, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like tapping it into the... I think you used some of this on the weathering and detailing diesel locomotives too.
I probably did, yeah. It has a lot of uses. One thing I like about it is because it's a dry lubricant, if you use it like in a journal box or something that has to rotate and is potentially going to be getting dirty, it won't keep the dirt in there. Like if you tried to oil it, that oil would can potentially act as a glue magnet.
Yeah, it attracts dust, I think.
Yeah, so I like this. This is also really good for coupler boxes to keep the couplers moving freely.
Yes, I remember that too.
Yeah. And this other one this happens to be Labelle 106 grease. This is a light plastic compatible grease.
Is that also called white grease?
Yeah, white grease.
Okay.
And this is for gears, basically, is what I use it for most of the time. And I use it very sparingly. So we'll get into that. I'm going to actually do some application of lubricants on some models here so we can see how this works.
Okay.
Okay, so this is your typical Athearn diesel locomotive that I have partly taken apart here. And if I was going to lube this, I would usually start with just the regular plastic compatible oil and just put a tiny drop like on each motor bearing, like right here and right here. You don't need very much, just a tiny bit. And then also on the gear bearings here.
All right.
And on the end. This probably already has factory lube. This is an engine I haven't actually done anything with yet, so it's probably over lubed already. A lot of times from the factory they come with kind of too much oil. You don't want to use very much though. This isn't an engine block in your car. It doesn't need to be dripping in fluid. It's actually better to have less. Yeah. Another thing I found is that once in a while, this type of motor, the sort of semi-open motor that's in a lot of Athearn and some Proto 2000 engines, will be a little squeaky.
Oh.
I remember one of the engines, I don't remember if it was one of the engines that we actually did on the HO Weathering and Detailing Diesel series, or if it was one of the ones I built for the run-by shots to go with those engines. But one of them had this really bad squeaky problem. It sounded like a little squirrel cage was in there or something.
Yeah. I remember that when we were filming the run-bys, there was some high-pitched...
Yeah.
I thought it was squeal coming off the flanges, off the tracks.
Yeah, it's probably the motor. I didn't... that may have been a different engine that I didn't get a chance to try to fix. But if the motor's open like this and you can see that the commutator, one of the things I found, the way I cured the squeaking on this one engine was actually to use some of this conductor lube and just put a little drop right on the commutator.
Oh, wow.
And that actually fixed it right up.
It seems weird that would squeak, though. Like, why would it?
I guess maybe it's the motor brushes, because the brush is right on the commutator, and they must have been tight enough to squeak or something. I'm not sure. Maybe they weren't completely seated, or I don't know. But then I just rotate the motor a little bit to kind of distribute that. And as you can see, I didn't use very much, but...
Yeah, I don't know if the camera could see it, but I saw it was just one tiny little drop.
One tiny little drop. Generally, that's what I do when I lube model trains. It's like one tiny little drop. That's all you need. You don't need to put a lot. It's really better not to have too much. So I've removed the gearbox cover from the bottom of the truck. And then I'm going to take some of this conductor lube and put just a drop on each axle bearing.
No, you're using that because electricity goes to those areas?
Yeah. That's the power comes... obviously from the track, then through the wheel, and then it goes through those bearings and then contacts these metal plates, which carries it up into the engine. So it's important for that electrical path to be, in good shape. And then for this white grease on the gears, just a little dab, maybe like that on a couple of the gears. Because what will happen is when this thing is running, that grease will get spread through all the other gears.
Right.
So you don't need a lot. I mean, literally, that's plenty right there.
Right, but you would put one on the center gear too, wouldn't you? Most likely.
You could, but it probably isn't necessary because it's going to get distributed anyway.
Oh, I see. So these go through gears inside the boxes.
Yes, there's more gears inside here.
Yeah,
so all of these gears are connected together, and they all kind of end up with the gear train ends up with one gear at the top.
That's what I wasn't getting. I just couldn't see it. I figured there was one here, one here, one here.
So as it runs, after a few minutes of running, that grease is going to get distributed over all of those gears.
Right.
And so you end up with just a little thin film of grease, which is plenty. You don't need, like I said, it doesn't need to be swimming in grease.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you have to remember is that these are very, very small parts.
Right. They're very small.
You need a very, very small amount of stuff.
Right. Right.
Makes sense to me.
When you're done, you just put the gear cover back on, and that's it. So one of the things I like to use the graphite lubricant for is on truck journals, for freight cars, and I just put a little bit.
Yeah, this is what I remember from the weathering and detailing rolling stock videos. You have a very good explanation of this.
Yeah, and what I do is I put like one end in and kind of mush it around a little bit, and then you can flip it over and do the other side.
I remember filming this for those videos.
Yeah, and then just put it back together, and you should end up with a very free spinning wheel. Another good use for the graphite lubricant is on coupler boxes. And you can either do it while you're putting the coupler together, or if one's already together, you can just kind of let some dribble in.
Oh, right in that little pocket there, huh?
Yeah, and then just kind of flick it back and forth to make sure it's nice and free moving.
Yeah.
And then you can just, blow off any excess. All right, so the NeoLube is kind of neat because it does, as I said before, it does two things. It blackens and improves electrical contact, as well as lubricating. So I guess that's actually three things. But you could. This is already. I already did this model. This is an N-scale engine, but you just kind of put it on, and it goes on wet. So you're not going to see a lot of blackening because it's, like I said, this has already been done once. But just put it on there, and then it'll dry pretty quickly. See, it's drying even as we're watching it, and it leaves that black color, and also will lube all the parts, so it's pretty cool. To show you a better example of, this is just a washer, but put it on there and it'll blacken it a bit.
You can see when it dries, it loses its sheen. It's just kind of gray now.
Yeah, it kind of gets a dull finish when it's dry. As you can see, it dries very quickly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it does leave a little bit of a, not completely black, but it is darker. Definitely, you can see the parts that I did and the parts that I didn't do.
Yeah.
I know this is really hard to see because this is so tight, but this is a little Bachmann Climax, and the way these engines are made, the trucks have a little electrical contacts in here that contact a little circuit board here.
Yeah, that is really hard to see.
It's really hard to see,
even with the naked eye here.
But one of the things about this particular engine is it's always been a little bit balky, in the sense that if I haven't run it for a while and I put it on the track, what happens is it'll start to move and then stop, and then start to move and then stop, and then start to move and then stop. And then after it's run for a few minutes, if I can manage to keep it going, then it's fine. And so I think what happens is that there's a little bit of oxidation that builds up on these contact points. So what I did was I used a very small micro brush, which I don't have with me at the moment, but I used some of this NeoLube and put some of that in here on these contacts. And since I did that, it doesn't have that balkiness problem anymore. So it seems to keep the oxidation down.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. If it's coated with something, there's nothing for the oxidation to stick to.
Yeah. So it really helped with that. So that was another use for it. You can't really, obviously, it's in a place where the blackened part of it doesn't matter because you can't really see it. But, the property it has of improving electrical contact was very cool for that. Yeah, so.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this month's edition of the video podcast. And we'll be back on August 15th. And then we'll be back again on September 1st with the next video podcast. So anyway, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.